Welcome. I'm delighted to be here with Alex Bibani and Giles Money from the Global Sustainability team. I'm Stephanie Sutton. I'm a Senior Product Specialist at Allianz GI. We've got a lot of experience in the room. Giles, Alex, you've done it for about 20 years. What brought you to Allianz GI?
Yeah, thanks, Steph. I think the key of those 20 years and talking about sustainability generally is they've not been the same. I often talk about the first 14 years that we've run sustainable funds for. We actually were the minority in the room. Not everybody had signed on to be sustainable. We were the minority asset class. And then what's happened since is there's been this very sudden rush of investment. And you can see that sustainability as a subject has just grown phenomenally since that point. And companies are also playing ball, right? You now have maybe 90% of S&P 500 companies that have written their own sustainability reports. You went back to the mid-2000s, maybe a quarter, maybe 10%. It was such a smaller field. And so to come back to the question, why AGI is, we feel we're not trying to justify ourselves being sustainable now. We're really trying to just deliver alpha. And to do that, you really have to have, phenomenal data, and you have to have great people to understand that data. And so for us, it's very clear that that's a business that has scaled, and you need scale to deliver.
So we mentioned that things have changed a lot in the last 20 years in terms of sustainability. What does give us confidence that the same will apply for the next 20 years of investing?
The first and probably the most important is this huge change in people's opinions on where they want to invest their money. And this is a generational shift in mindset. So if you think back to previous generations, the baby boomers and the silent generation, they were just very much focused on returns. The newer generations, the millennials, the Gen X's, they're much more aware of where their money is being made. They want returns, but they want to do that by investing in businesses that are solving problems, not creating more. So as this generational wealth gets moved further and further down, you get much more insight into sustainable investing, and the fund flows are going to continue for years and years to come.
And I think sometimes it's even more than that, right? You know that everything we do is saying what's going to be true in 10 years. And it almost feels like that's easier for some younger generations because they've not seen or experienced an economy with great growth, right? If you think about the last 20 years in the developed world, it actually hasn't been a growing economy, right? You haven't just had more and more concrete poured or buildings built, right? I think that's the experience if you are in emerging markets, of course, right? If you've experienced the Chinese phenomenon since they joined the WTO. So I think it's quite intuitive that in a world where there is less growth, where you can only really grow when you invest sustainably. And that means that you have to build, good chemical plants, not bad ones. It means you have to build the future. And I suppose there's a very natural understanding for that probably helps people go on that journey.
We talked about scale and the importance of data. I see the two of you in front of me today. Do you have any other resources you can rely upon at Allianz GI?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And the truth is we have, over 150 people on the investment platform doing equities. So we have this unbelievable scale of talent and people that we can draw from. The difference is that every day we start with a sustainable universe. So again, going back to thinking about what businesses are going to thrive if you can't pollute to grow and you can't just build more and more infrastructure, right? Everything has to have a purpose now. So what we do is we use that talent, but we're always looking at it through the sustainable filters that we use.
Yeah, maybe just to add that to help us with those sustainable filters, we have an incredible sustainability and impact team. So this is a global team, over 45 professionals. They sift through the pools and pools of data that we have, helping us to understand what is and what isn't material. They can then package that up and deliver that to us in a system that is easy to use and understand on a daily basis. We really couldn't do it without them.
And it sort of feels to me like we've spent 20 years gathering data, right? Everyone who wouldn't fill in a survey before suddenly fills in a survey. And actually now we've fulfilled the landscape, right? We've got 13,000 companies, I think, where you have this data set. And the truth is now you have to get to the truth, which is that there's so much data, it can obviously confuse people. And so that's why it's so key that we subscribe to many different data sets. And then we have people to interpret the data. As you mentioned, a team of 4 isn't going to be able to do that. And that's why there's so many people there to just make the data real And from that point, we can really fulfill our duty to our clients, which is making this a genuine investment vehicle that looks at the sustainable landscape as we define it.
So we talked about the scale, the data that we've got at our disposal. Now, could you give us a bit of a flavor where you see the opportunities and what you look for in a sustainable investment going forward?
Sure. So we really think about segmenting the market into two distinct categories. What would we class as unsustainable and perhaps not growing versus sustainable and growing. So we dedicate our time and our clients' assets on investing and researching all of the areas that are interesting from a sustainable perspective. Examples would be cloud computing, AI, electric vehicles, renewable energy. And at the same time, avoiding all of those unsustainable areas. So cash as a percentage of payments is clearly going out of favor. This is being replaced by digital payments.
We mentioned all of the opportunities. Are there any challenges to sustainable investment as well, Giles?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We live in a world where we've all grown up in different experiences, in different cultures, different religions, different exposure to the environments, and different sensitivities. So what we always have is the idea that every client isn't the same. We have to provide sustainability as a wholesale category, which means that we invest in the most sustainable companies by sector. And so what we're trying to give everyone is an investment vehicle where they can have their views reflected at a global level. So some of the challenges with sustainability is just to provide a very clear, transparent product and then create alpha on top of that. And that's really what we're doing with this strategy, because it's always done the same thing. It lends itself to having a lot of credibility in that context.